Very good. Thank you so much, Benjamin. So many times while you were talking, I get a little emotional.
I want to hear why.
Well, to hear the story of someone, talking about how they felt the connection and how, learning that why it takes you telling a story that the grandmother was doing the laundry while taking care of the kids.
Yeah,
That story had to sort of be told in order for us to feel a connection with
yeah,
someone
yeah.
that it doesn't share proximity with us, right? That
Exactly. Yeah,
just
yeah. And that
we need a reminder that we're all connected,
exactly.
that
Yeah,
we're
and
all.
that is the essence of my entire work. The word that is always on my mind is connection. How do I? And it has inspired. I think somebody, Shannon asked a question earlier about marine photography. I'm always thinking of how do I get somebody to feel the moment over here? And that is also inspired the kind of story that I tell. It also inspires the kind of story that I choose to put out there because I'm not just showing, you realize that I'm not just showing biographies of farmers, I'm showing moments where people can feel a connection with them. So connection is something that human beings need. And I think in chocolate, we can enhance our product with stories in order to make that connection really more prevalent. Yeah.
Yes. Now that everyone's had the opportunity to either use the QR code,
Mhm.
do you want to stop sharing your screen so you'll be sort
All
of
right.
full in the frame so everybody can get a good look
Yes.
at you, and
Yes.
maybe we can start a conversation. You can
Yeah.
put your question in the chat, or if you have a comment, or you want to sort of deeper dive into the conversation, we can open some mics and get a dialogue going. How did this make you feel? What question do you have? How do you see that, what Benjamin has shared with us, taking that into your own life or into your own business?
Hmm.
I'm
Hmm.
curious to hear, and I know Benjamin is also.
Now I'm curious as well because this is a conversation that I'm really passionate about, and I'm sure that many people in the chocopreneurship space will be would find it value in really expanding on some of the discussion that I've put out there. So yeah, I'm looking
Yes,
forward
yes.
to
Now there
questions
is a
and that.
raise hand feature on the Zoom app at the bottom, and if you want to use that raise hand feature, and I can see if you've raised your hand, and I can open your mic, and if you don't want to type your question or your comment,
Yeah.
as Mrs. Balu would say, don't be shy.
No, I
Come on
cannot be
in.
shy.
Oh,
So,
yes, here we go.
Jenkins,
Jenkins. Okay.
I'm excited.
I never like that it says allow to talk. Like I have to allow you to talk. I'm giving you the capability to open your mic, Jenkins. Come on in.
We are
Let's.
Okay.
enabling them.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All
Welcome.
right. Yes. Benjamin, I just wanted to say thank you so much for the presentation.
Thank you.
Um, I think everything that you're doing resonates so well with what we're trying to do in Liberia. The name of our company is called the Unnamed Farm Ltd.
Oh,
And
oh.
most people will see that name and say, "Why did you choose to name your company the Unnamed Farm?" And
Hmm.
for us, is a conversation starter to
Hmm.
piggyback off of exactly what you presented today, which is the whole purpose for our company is to bring recognition to African farmers that in the past weren't recognized by mostly mainstream Western cultures when it comes to cocoa production, and giving telling their stories on how cocoa is produced. And some of the stats that are very eye-catching in the cocoa industry is that some of these farmers that produced cocoa in the past had never tasted chocolate before. And so our company came out to be like a sort of a stepping stone to be able to tell the stories to help give them better wages, but also to present them to the world in a way where people can understand them and connect with them. And I think your photography, your storytelling is a great starting point. And my company is taking an approach where we're bringing video production because I'm a professional videographer. We're going to bring video production in the storytellings and letting people know and letting people see how cocoa is actually produced in countries like Liberia and other parts of West Africa. So I really commend you for the work that you're doing, and I pray that you continue the work, and hopefully we can connect because Ghana isn't too far away from Liberia. That would be an awesome experience.
Thank you so much, Jenkins. I really love the words that you used. The unnamed farm. It's an amazing thing, and I like the fact that it's a conversation starter. One of the things that I say is that chocolate is magic. It's like a magic trick. And what happens when you experience a magic trick? You're curious. Ah, how did it do that? And then you want to ask questions. And so when you are curious, you are open to all kinds of stories that enables to learn about the process that got you the magic trick that you have experienced. So I like it when people are using chocolate as a means to start conversations. And I'm really looking forward to connecting more on this so that we can see how we can expand the conversation. Connection is all I'm looking for. So I'm excited to sort of engage and then see how we can let the world see what is happening out there. Thank you so much, Jenkins.
Very good. Okay, so you see, it wasn't so scary to come in and share. Jenkins did it.
Yeah.
I like to see
Yeah,
more
today
hands
I was
raised.
yeah, today I was on LinkedIn, like very rarely I go there, but today I was there and I saw Aaron has made a movie that about the farmers, and he's going to release it soon. He had a trailer in the LinkedIn. I
Yeah.
thought that's such a good segue to your, presentation. So
Mm.
people are starting to realize the importance of bringing the farmers and telling their stories and also making them heroes, because so far the farmers were the ones that was getting the least amount of recognition and least amount of compensation. If you look at the chocolate value chain, the farmers are getting only 6%.
Mhm.
So that needs to change. The
Mhm.
farming has to be, you know, um, sustainable, and we have to get the next generation interested, because it's also in our self-interest. Because if the farmers refuses to put their foot in the mud, we cannot put our hand in the food. We have to
Mm.
remember that, and we should not be shy to pay them the right amount, pay them the money they deserve, because rain or shine, they are in the farm 365 a day. Just like we have the other jobs, they have other jobs too. But their job is more strenuous, not just physically, but
Mm.
also
Mm.
mentally, because they don't know when it's going to rain, because a lot of things are not in their control. The nature can play a big role in the outcome of their toil. So when considering all this, as of chocolate makers, I think we have a social responsibility to take care of the farmers and make sure they stay in the farm, so we can stay in the dry roof.
Interesting though, Mrs. Bell. Yeah, it's always interesting that of the concern that people have for farmers. I think it should be the priority of any individual to ensure that whenever they are doing business as humanly possible as they can, they are supposed to make sure that every single person who touches their work is treated with fairness. I think that is something that I think every human being as an individual should explore. And one of the things that happens that it gets complex when it is in business and all that kind of in the bigger spaces. So my intention and on anytime when I'm speaking, I don't speak to businesses. I speak to individuals. So I speak to you as an individual who runs a business. If there is going to be any kind of change that is going to make life better for somebody, it has to do with what you spend your time thinking about at 1 a.m. in the night when you wake up. And if you cannot get access to that, there's no way it can develop into a bigger structure than that. So as humanly possible as everyone can, you can just do your best to make sure that you explore ways to make sure that everyone in your supply chain is sort of treated fairly. Yeah.
Thank
I
you
think
for
there are
that.
some questions. Yeah.
Yep, we have some questions. So we have a question about implementation. So someone wants to know, do you have any tips on how we can tell stories on our packaging for chocolate bars with such limited space?
Mm, mm, mm. That's a very interesting. It's a very interesting question. Thank you for that. I have seen some bars. Anytime I go to a chocolate event and I get some bars, I bring the bars home and I have the packaging in my house, so I don't throw my packaging away. I have bars from like 2022 and the packaging is still there. And I've seen people write stories of cocoa farmers who are in the supply chain on the back of the packaging. I think one of the things that can start a conversation is a photo can start a conversation. I think there's some also ethical concern about using farmers' photos around on packaging and all that. I'm not in that space, so I don't know anything about anything I can share about that for now. But I think the packaging can tell a very tiny one sentence can tell something somebody may never have heard about before, right? About an origin, something that a fun fact about the origin culture. So in Ghana, maybe Ghanaians in the forest growing zone eat a lot of fufu. That might spark something. You cannot teach an entire course on the packaging, but you can write one sentence and use your creativity to explore that space to get someone to think about something, to think about going to Google more, right? So if you can just write something small, I think once you think about this, the creativity is going to now make it possible for you to do something like that. What can you do to enable someone go to Google to type where is Asumankese in Ghana, where Benjamin lives, right? I think if you are able to do that, that is going to be an interesting thing to explore. And the reason why I'm putting this in this space, especially, is because I see craft chocolate makers or people in the bean to bar space as people who are always tinkering with this, exploring, trying to like just experiment new things, right? And so one of those things is something that you can explore. I mean, eventually you come up with something in your unique own way, in your own unique way that you can explore. So yes, please try that.
I have one suggestion on that. The
Yeah.
thing is, I know the packaging is very limited. The one thing people can do is they can put a small QR code, learn more about the farmer, and link it to their website where they can put the picture, the story, because everybody nowadays is working with a phone that has the internet connection. It's not like olden days, you have to go look at the encyclopedia. But now if the phone is with you like 24 hours a day. So put a small QR code because I know like packaging, it gets complicated with all the artwork, everything, how much you can write. But putting the QR code, just saying where the beans came from or who is the farmer and put that. So I think people
Amazing.
will go and look at it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mrs.
QR
Lulu.
codes are powerful. QR codes
Sorry.
are powerful tools now. QR codes are powerful tools now. So it's an amazing thing to explore that connection between the package and then your blog or social media post. So once the story is live, available somewhere, there's always a connection from the physical to that. That's an amazing approach.
That brings up an interesting point, though, that it's possible that makers may not know the exact the exact farmer. They may not be able to tell that exact story
Yeah.
as Benjamin,
Okay.
who's standing, you know, living shoulder to shoulder with them. And I like
Yeah.
what you said about putting on the package something that was interesting. That you said what you said was not a cocoa related story, but a how do I live story, which is in this region they eat a lot of fufu. Well, what is that?
Exactly.
And then you go and learn about the person, the people
Exactly.
of the area, not even related to chocolate, but how does it relate to everyday living and create a thread from heart to heart, like the grandmother washing the clothes and caring for her grandchildren.
Exactly. I think I like I think one of the things I'm always aware of is the fact that I don't expect people like living far away to just all of a sudden appear in Ghana and then yeah, gathering their gardening stories. But once there is a will, there's always going to be a way, right? Human beings have figured out how to put a man on the moon. They are doing all kinds of complex things. It's possible for individuals to find a way to tell more cocoa stories than we are already doing. And one of the things that I have often been thinking about is that why don't we now develop a cocoa storage chain? And that is what my preoccupation these days is. Why don't we develop a cocoa storage chain so that as the beans move along the supply chain to Atlanta, to New York or whatever, storage go along with it. And one of the observations that I have made is that in the craft chocolate industry, you as a chocolate maker, you shouldn't just buy beans. You should buy beans with stories. If somebody is, and I'm going to cause a lot of trouble in this industry right now, so so if you are purchasing cocoa, you make sure you push your exporters, or I don't know, your traders, to make sure that they get you stories that go along, that help you develop a deeper connection with the cocoa more than just the flavor. Because if all you have is the flavor, you are missing out of all kinds of sources of inspiration that could turn into interesting chocolate bars that you can make, right? I know stories can inspire chocolate bars or chocolate recipes. So what if instead of just ordering your cocoa bag, a bag of cocoa, you make sure that the trader tells you more about the origin, about the farmers and all that, so that if you cannot come to Ghana, at least you can read something that will enable you to start Googling and then learn more. So don't just order bags of cocoa, start ordering bags of cocoa with all kinds of stories.
Yes, that's great. And then you can implement the QR code because it has somewhere to go.
Something like that,
Yeah.
definitely.
Okay, let's see. So we do have some more questions. Okay, great question. So let me see. Genevieve, I think, wants to know, do the farmers know where their beans end up? Which chocolate makers use them? Do they themselves have a connection to the maker?
Okay. So that's an interesting question. So you realize that the disconnection that I'm talking about is both ways. So the chocolate makers are not aware of who is in the supply chain. The farmers are also not aware of who exactly uses their bar. I did a research. I did a research in my previous company in 2024, where we went to ask cocoa producing organizations about two-way transparency. And one of the things they were curious about is who uses our chocolate and what do they use it for, right? And where do they use it for? So individuals on the ground, some of them are really interested in just knowing how their their cocoa ends up in the products that they consume. There's been some many instances, especially even in the African setting, where the chocolate makers, like I know in the craft chocolate in Africa, there's like Wezi from Malawi, and then also Uzo from in Nigeria, and then Bioko Jane in Ghana. Some of them just work with their farmers. They train their farmers in order to ferment the cocoa to the quality that they want. And so in that case, there is that direct connection with them. And there are also instances where some organic cocoa chocolate makers, they visit their origins in order to interact with the farmers so that they have that kind of exchange. So some people are able to do that, some farmers are able to do that, but I'm sure that it's just like a little number. But generally, many farmers that I've interacted with are aware that their cocoa is used for making chocolate.
Good. Okay, so someone is just wondering how storytelling can also be a direct empowerment, or rather a direct contribution to the farmer beyond the connection, the getting to know.
Yeah.
The person says, I have always find it quite questionable to use. Hold on, it jumped. To use the story of a farmer to put on packaging because the big gain is still made by the brand.
Okay, I
Great
understand.
comment.
So yeah, so this takes us into a more philosophical realm where everybody might end up being right and everybody is going to be wrong, right? Because it's not possible to just draw the framework around it. There's always going to be a space where the argument just falls apart, right? So my take on the first part is how can storytelling be direct empowerment, or rather a direct contribution to the farmer? The idea that I have is that the chocolate consumer is not only a chocolate consumer. Now, if somebody consumes craft chocolate and they love it and they know where you source from it, where you source your cocoa from, if they are a medical doctor, if they are an entrepreneur, just by getting interested in the origin of the cocoa that makes their chocolate, they can end up going to do something in that community or building some kind of partnership with that community. That has nothing to do with chocolate making or cocoa production. And so at the end of the day, by the craft chocolates work really connecting the farming community or the origins of this cocoa bean to the consumer out there, you find somebody who is interested in doing some projects, discovering this community where their passion is going to thrive. And then they go in and then they work out with them. That is one thing that we can also explore. And then of course, it is always going to be questionable to use the story of a farmer to put on the packaging. If you think of only the financial gains, definitely you are always there's always going to be that discomfort over there. But I believe where two individuals have had a genuine relationship. If I'm a farmer, and there are many farmers out here who don't mind having their names on their package, they'll be happy. If you have built a meaningful relationship with them and it is not a hit or run situation, they're definitely going to be comfortable having their name on the packaging. So it's always going to be a personal thing, and I think that is how we can always explore that.
I just did want to add it to that, Benjamin. See, the thing is, if you try to increase your profit by using the farmer's picture, then it's not ethical.
Yeah.
But if you are sharing your profit and making the farmer's life better, then it's a win-win for everyone.
Yeah.
So that's where your intention, what's your intention in using the farmer story is important. And also, the connection between the farmer is far removed from the places where cocoa is not growing, unfortunately, because somebody collects all the beans and transports. But we have seen in, like, for example, Philippines, I met a lady called Angelia. She has a chocolate company, but she's like a very passionate about making chocolate. In her wrapper inside, she puts the picture of the farmer, the story of the farmer, and also for each package, she has a different design and she's using a local artist to design hers. So she also puts it about the artist. So she is helping the whole community. She's not looking at it as a way of earning money. She's looking at it as a way of highlighting them and humanizing the story, just like you were saying. So people are already doing it, but somehow some of the stories don't come out yet. They're still staying within the community. So we need to bring those stories more and more. So more people are aware, and then more people can share their profit with the farmers and make them better.
Interesting, interesting. I think I like that you highlight that the intention. The intention is very important. And the thing about intention is that I would never be able to tell what intention you have in your mind. I can only look at it from outside. And so that is where the conversation becomes difficult, right? So if we are going to look for it only from the outside and then judge the intention to be right or wrong, that is going to be very difficult. So at the end of the day, there's that part where the ethical conversation ends up at what is the intention of the person, and you are not able to tell beyond what they tell you. So it's just where it gets complicated. And I'm just happy that this conversation keeps happening, or people keep throwing up some of these interesting arguments. I'm happy and that's actually why I'm here. I was really looking forward for that. So thank you so much for bringing this up.
Yeah, this brings up something that I always say, and I wonder if you think it's valid and it's a possibility. I like to see the cocoa farmers like as a rock star, and rock stars don't start out as rock stars. They start out in a garage playing, and then people hear them and they like it, and then they tell somebody else, and then somebody else discovers them.
Yeah.
And it might take years and years, but the seed gets planted and planted and planted, and they go to gigs and make $50, or but eventually they get the contract, and then they become, they start
Exactly.
making a bigger wage. So it is, telling their story may not have a instant impact,
Yeah.
but bringing the awareness and making people sort of endeared and making it more important and less instead of just a means to an end, as it were.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Yeah. And I think one of the things I like to highlight about my work is that it is like a part of something, like a tiny part of something really big. That is connection, right? The world is like really like just so divisive right now. Okay. And everybody is looking for reasons to hate on one another. Okay, that's the context that we are living in right now. But in that space, people still live with misconceptions about the other person. And it's important that these stories enable people to develop the curiosity to see, like, ah, I thought about this. It looks like this is not what it actually is. Can I just dig more into it and find something? Like at the very like minute level, that's like all I'm trying to achieve. So this is not an attempt to sort of revolutionize anything, but this is just an attempt to enable the chocolate lover who is different from me to the chocolate consumer. The chocolate consumer just consumes, right? But the chocolate lover, for me, is more interested in something beyond what they are eating. They are looking for the story. They are hunting around. They are just want to know who is in the supply chain. That's a chocolate lover for me. And I want that chocolate lover to have access to the information that they are looking for. That enables them to develop the connection that's really they are looking for. It's so yeah, I'm really happy to be hearing some of these things.
Okay, we have some more comments. Sharon
Yeah.
says, love hearing about the cocoa farmers and their lives. Telling stories is a great way to share their journeys. Do a lot of craft chocolate makers visit the farms in Ghana and wondering about the language barriers?
Okay.
I would
Yeah.
think visiting and experiencing the farmer's life is important for personal connections.
Yeah. And it's one of the things that I advocate for. That's farmers, people who make chocolate develop a personal relationship with the people who produce their cocoa. And I think Kekeli is in the chat. She responded yes because she has experienced that. So Kekeli might come on and then say a thing or two about that. She's doing amazing work in Ghana's food culture space and then also in cocoa specifically. So yes, craft chocolates in Ghana. I know craft chocolates in Ghana who visit cocoa farms. They interact with farmers. They even give them their bars to taste and then ask for feedback about it and all that. So those are things that happen. And language barrier, of course, it's very, very number, but always comes down to the idea that where there's a will for the human being, there is always a way, right? So in some of my research, I've had to intermediate between people who speak none of my language and then those who also don't speak any English, right? And so all these are possible things. But the goal for me is to make the attempt, is to try. And I think something definitely is going to come out of it along that line. Yeah. I think Kelly wants to say something.
Yes, I
Yeah, can you hear me?
yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, great. Yes, amazing. Sorry, I currently can't switch on my camera because I'm cooking. But no, I can only build upon what Benjamin said. And I've actually just recently started introducing cocoa tours on my cocoa farm to also connect exactly the consumer to the cocoa farmer. And I have to say it has been so far like really incredible experiences because there was so much knowledge that has been transferred and so much of a feeling for the realities of the cocoa farmers. What I also introduced was not actually just a cocoa tour, but actually also introducing a little bit of, like work, the actual work of the cocoa farmer. And that's when you actually really notice how hard it is actually is also to produce cocoa, just a little bit of cocoa. So they actually also made cocoa bars, and it took them hours to make that cocoa bar, and in the end they had this like little way less than 100 grams chocolate, and then they had to put a price tag on it. And I think it really created this yeah, it really created this yeah, how do you say, yeah, they really got a sense of what goes into making
The
chocolate. So
feeling of it. Yeah.
the feeling of it, yes. So that was amazing.
Yeah.
And I also obviously I agree with the language barrier is definitely a problem, but I face the same language barrier too because I don't speak the local language. So yeah.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. Yeah, I think I like the fact that when I tell stories from far away with photography, it is my attempt, right? Because I cannot reach Teresa tangibly, right? I can only reach Teresa virtually. So that's the attempt that I can make with photography. And I started as a writer, right? So photography was like something that I decided to do when I put out my first story. It's like, Benjamin, you're not Hemingway. You cannot use words to describe cocoa farms. Why don't you just go ahead and just take pictures? So then I added photography into my writing as like a compulsory thing to do, right? But that is also one step in the building the connection. Somebody else like a Kelly will do a tour. That means somebody is going to come physically into the space and then experience the cocoa farming through that. That's also an extension of it. And then there are the people like Nettie and Estelle who host craft chocolate tasting events, and what they do is also now build on the work that the chocolate makers and everyone has done by letting people in small spaces into the world that is cocoa production. And so all these connections end up into like a whole giant ball that enables the storytelling to achieve the effect that we desire for it to, which is connection for the world, global connection. That's essentially it for me.
I love what Kikili shared about the experience that she created, which was that the people had to make the go through the process and make the chocolate, and in the end, and then the end, give it value and say, how much should this cost? Because I recognize that one of the challenges for the whole industry as a whole is that you're constantly faced with this need to train or teach people, into being customers, because they don't understand why am I being asked to pay $14 for this tiny little thing when I can, $3 I can buy this other bar thing, candy, really. So to give a sense of, and I'm sure that it's not possible to give them a full sense of it because they didn't harvest, you probably didn't send them out to harvest it, pull the pulp out, ferment, dry.
Kekeli, please tell us about that. I wonder if Kekeli can share more into how much they price their chocolate at the end of the day.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. How did they price their chocolate?
I mean, there were obviously a lot of jokes on that, and they put their work in the 3-digit numbers.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So that was really interesting. But when it came to like they now made actually a commitment then to not buying any chocolate that is below at least they said at least below $3. But yeah, that was one of the good outcomes of that.
That's transformation.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Okay, there's a comment here that says, in America, this is trendy. Costa Rica, Ecuador, Venezuela, Peru, Dominican Republic, Nicaragua, etc., are working hard to improve the quality of life of the cocoa farmers whenever such farmers are willing to come out in the open.
That's an interesting one. Yeah. Interesting.
Let's see, what else do we have?
I look forward to somebody starting American cocoa stories, but they tell stories about cocoa from Latin America. It's been a very interesting, thing to explore because the culture, one reason chocolate becomes an interesting avenue for cultural exchange is that when people are fascinated, they enjoy the product. Just like I said, they are open to, if it is delicious, they are open to learn more about it. And then the education can follow. And then the stories can follow. So it's always an interesting thing for me to sort of see how it is happening in the world. I'm in Ghana now, but hopefully, definitely I'll end up in Ivory Coast and then see what I can learn from there. And then in Togo and see what I can learn from there. So I'm looking for connection all across, and that's a beautiful thing. Yeah.
Okay, we
See.
still have some time. Just a reminder, there is the raise hand feature. Oh, you've been invited to Puerto Rico.
Oh, nice.
You're welcome to Puerto Rico and collaborate.
Thank
story.
you. Thank you, Linus. I'm going to reach out on that. It'll be very interesting to explore, yeah. Thanks, S.
Very good. Okay, we still have some time if we want to continue the conversation.
Sure.
I see Dr. Ogata is here. I haven't seen your name in a while. Oh, I see a
No,
hand.
he raised his hand.
Oh, there
He
we go.
raised his hand.
All right, Dr. Ogata, join the conversation.
Hello,
Hello.
how are you?
Hello.
Well, I have some comments on your talk.
Okay.
First of all, I want to congratulate you because exactly that is the kind of things you as a person from Ghana
Yeah.
should do, and that is to humanize the farmers that are hidden and are usually at the end of the chain. So I think that is a very, very good thing you are doing. And the other thing I would like to recommend is to in order, as Mrs. Balu said, that you have to do all your work on an ethical way, is, for example, try to involve not only individual stories, but community stories. I'm talking from Mexico. And in Mexico, we have done this kind of individual stories, but also community stories. And one way to go for it is with video and set up day zero and take from that day zero to take a monthly how if the community is doing well, how they are changing the conditions in their community. And in order to do that, it is necessary not only to put attention on the production of cocoa, but to put attention in the well-being of the community. And in order to solve the well-being of the community, you need to join with the community and see what are their local problems. And in order to solve their local problems, is the way they are going to find their own well-being. And what we have been doing in Mexico is try to promote through attitudes of solidarity, try to go for searching what are the local problems of the community, and then help them for autonomy, to have the decisions they want on whatever they want. And in order to have this autonomy, they have to achieve the self-food autonomy. They have to be able to get their own food. And in order to do that, what they have to do is to diversify their production, not only cocoa. In that way, they will be able to get autonomous And and this is not a commercial because, but what I suggest in another talk that I was invited by Coco Town is that it is necessary that the local communities get involved in all the key chains of production. And one way that we have done here in Mexico has been to set up a minimum unit of production of craft chocolate, where the farmer not only is trained in the good manners of cultivation, but also fermentation, roasting, conching, and producing craft chocolate. And I am saying this because you are in Ghana, and Ghana is one of the best places to develop these kind of initiatives. In fact, the ex-president Nana Akufo-Addo, he proposed that Ghana should not sell any seed to Switzerland. And you know what the president of Switzerland said, Simonetta something? She said, you have something that we need and we are going to get it. And the thing is, Nana Akufo-Addo started to propose that Ghana should be independent in the cacao chain by producing their own craft chocolate. And for this, there is a paper written 4 years ago, 3 years ago, where they noticed that the best way of development for the small farmers is to get involved in craft chocolate. And they say this because they made a search around the world. And from almost 1,000 companies of craft chocolate, most of these companies are located in the United States, then France, and then Italy. And ironically, West Africa holds only 0.22% of the companies. And Ghana only has 2.2. From that 0.22, Ghana has only 2.2% of craft chocolate companies. So this is an empty niche that you should explore in detail, but emphasizing in the well-being of the farmers. So, in the way you can prove how people is improving is by recording the communities and not only the individual stories that, by the way, you have beautiful and very meaningful pictures. So
Thank you.
that is my advice, because it is time that the beneficiaries of the cocoa production, especially in West Africa, needs to be the farmers. I think you know that Ivory Coast and Ghana are the two higher producers, but this is because Ivory Coast has lost 90% of the original vegetation, and Ghana has lost at least 60% of the original vegetation in the last 30 years.
Dr. Ogata,
Okay, that's all.
I think we need another webinar for you. I want to
Okay,
jump in.
okay.
I'm gonna just
Okay.
jump in because you had a lot of meaty things to say. I just want to give Benjamin an opportunity.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. We love when you join, and we're happy to see you again. But I want to give Benjamin an opportunity to comment on any one of those things that you
Alright.
I'm
mentioned.
sorry, man. I got excited.
Don't be sorry. I know your passion.
No, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Doc. One of the things that you mentioned was the involvement of communities in their own development. In fact, it's one thing that I am pro for. I'm really passionate about that, that people in their communities find ways to develop their own well-being and not rely on external people who often misunderstand their context for development. And I think what has resulted in many of the misconceptions that are out there is because communities are not developed from within, but people always go where there are tools to go and help them develop. And then stories come, and then all kinds of troubles begin, right? And so it is very important that we work together with communities to see how, beyond just telling their stories, we can now track their progress and then inspire them to find minute ways of improving their own well-being. And I'm involved in many interesting projects that are marching towards that. So the individual stories that you see are just the beginning. I am on a journey, and this is just the beginning of the journey that I am on. So when you see individual stories, there's a reason why today you didn't see the cocoa tree or the cocoa pod in the stories, because it's not just about individuals drying cocoa, but it's about communities that extend way beyond the farm. So I took you around town because I wanted you to connect to the communities and then enjoy and understand the context. In fact, there's one amazing woman in the chat in the list, G.D. Akufo, Genevieve Della Akufo, who is the passionate daughter of a cocoa farmer and has many amazing, interesting things for the plan for the industry. So she has been part. When you started talking, Doctor, she was the one I was thinking about, because at the beginning of my storytelling, she was like, Benjamin, how do we let this benefit the farmers beyond just telling their stories with the world? So if she wants to, I'm sure she might want to say a thing or two on that. But Doc, I really hear you. I love the suggestion that you have come up with, and it would be nice for to really explore some of these things on the longer term. Yeah.
Yes.
Should I raise my hand? I guess I
No,
should.
I've already opened your mic. Come on in.
Okay. Hi.
Before she says anything, so this is the amazing woman who bought me my first digital camera. And she had never met me before. She just heard that I wanted to tell stories. And the first time I saw her face to face, she had bought my first digital camera. And that is Mrs. Genevieve Dalla Akufo. She's based in the UK.
We should ask her to
Okay.
open her, famous camera so we can see her too.
My goodness, I'm blushing now. I don't even know what to say. So thank you, everyone. It's been an absolutely amazing session. I mean, I'm on the road, but I connected because I wanted to be a part of this. And there's been so much said. And I love what Benjamin just said, just in the last 5 minutes. It is a journey, and this is just the beginning. I think, is it Evelyn? Evelyn had also highlighted about the seeds are being planted, and with each dialogue, with each webinar with Cocoa Town, we are watering those seeds. We are watering those seeds. These are seeds that have lain dormant in the ground for ages. There's endless stories. And I mean, what Benjamin said is key. The communities were all set up by external parties where infrastructure, logistics was set up to suit an external party who wanted something from that community. But now, we, the sort of homegrown chocolate lovers, cocoa lovers, lovers of our country, are picking up those stories from the ground and working it back. I think somebody had said, it looks like the farmer is at the end of the chain, but they're actually the beginning. And that's what we are trying to do in putting them firmly back in pole position, and also highlighting what happens in their lives, which is what Benjamin is doing, and which is what I encouraged him to do right from the onset. So it is a journey, and it is unfolding, and there's a lot going to come out. So watch this space. And thank you so much, Cocoa Town, for all you're doing. And I know we'll definitely speak some more. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful.
Okay.
We didn't get to see her.
Ah, MD, they will want to see your face if it's
Okay,
possible.
I can promote her to promote them to panelists.
I need to be unmasked at this stage, I guess.
Okay,
I
you've been, let me see, did it
I
work?
think as someone said, I'm actually in my kitchen as well. But yes, definitely I can show a face and wave a hand.
Please show
Show,
your face.
show a
Show your
smile.
face.
You don't be
Where are
shy
we?
because being
No,
in the
not
kitchen
at
is
all.
part of our job. That's
Yes.
humanizing everyone. So
I'm
it's
I'm
Yes.
trying
okay.
I'm trying to so how do I do this now? I think I'm stuck.
Look
Yeah,
at the video at the
I've
bottom. Look at the
promoted you to,
video.
here we come. Oh, yep. So now you should be able to open your camera.
Turn on the video.
There we go.
Ah, there she is. Yeah.
Yet unmute. Yet unmute. We
You're
cannot
on
hear
Now
you.
mute.
we don't hear you.
Oh there.
There you go.
There you go. So
Hey.
shirt and you can see my sweaty face. I'm doing Saturday cooking, but I listened right from the onset and I'm absolutely blown away. I really can't wait for the next stage of this because I know there is a lot to it. Yes. So hi everyone.
There is a question I don't want to miss, which is they would like you to describe your definition of ethical storytelling.
Yeah, I think for me, it has been one of the questions that I've really received a lot. And what I have always kept in mind while telling these stories, and I think what even brought me to the scene was something that was missing, that is dignity, right? When I met cocoa farmers, the people that I lived with, the people with whose children I sat in the same classroom, what I saw of them was different than what was portrayed on the internet. Right at the very beginning, when I started getting into the cocoa research, the first thing that I was always seeing was if cocoa farmers appeared anywhere, there has to be child labor attached, there has to be deforestation attached, there has to be all kinds of things attached, just because of the framework that their stories came in. They were never supposed to be featured in stories. But when ethical concerns came, they were always accused of child labor, all kinds of things. And that is only the entry point that cocoa farmers had when it had to do with people seeing their stories. But those were so far-fetched from what I was seeing on a daily basis. And so the point was to, when somebody think of cocoa farming, the point was to let them see something else than child labor and all the negative things that cocoa people in the chocolate industry who unfortunately don't have the context on these issues end up perceiving. So ethical storytelling is just something that honors, a story that honors the dignity, brings to fore the dignity and agency of the person being described here. Beautiful question from Kelly. Thank you.
Yes. I think we are almost end of the the
Yeah.
hour. So if anybody else has a question, otherwise we can complete the session today because thank you, Benjamin, for all your stories, all the work you are doing. So we are
Thank you.
hoping soon the farmers will be the heroes. The Cacao of Excellence is doing a good job because they select the farmers and then it's like the Oscars for the farmers when they give
Yeah.
the top 50 awards for the Cacao of Excellence, program. But we
Yeah.
need to do more and more, and like every person in the value chain should contribute for the farmers, empowerment. So we thank you all for joining because Benjamin has a great story, but there should be some listeners. Otherwise, the story doesn't have any meaning.
It doesn't have
So
any
thank you.
meaning.
So thank you for coming on a Saturday morning or afternoon, depending on where you are. And thank you for joining us and giving us more encouragement to keep doing this because if there are no audience, we cannot do this program at all. We cannot bring the webinars. So thank you, Benjamin, for sharing your time, and thank you all the participants to making it worthwhile. Thank you all. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Satarasa.
Oh, yes, thank you. And Benjamin, just one in a short sentence, what is the one thing you want us to remember? What you want us, to keep the jewel that you want us to take? There are many, but just briefly one.
All right. The story of your bar, of any bar that you make, goes beyond its flavor. And every single person who contributes to making that bar possible is a story worth telling to the consumer. And so don't shy away from telling your story, including your story. So, yes, look for stories as a way to connect, not as a way to prove your ethicality. That's all.
Great. All right. Thank you, everyone.
And one more request, please take time to write a review because that's very important. That's what shows the rest of the world that they need to go and watch this and help more, because the more people watch this video, the more farmers can get benefit. So think of it as a way of giving back to the community. So please take time when you get the the link for reviewing it. Write your review, good or bad, because we always learn. We always, everybody in Town, we believe in learning. Every day is a learning opportunity. So whether it's good or bad, don't feel shy. Please tell what you feel. That's how we can improve. Thank you.
Yes,
Amazing.
and like and share and follow the social media. And Benjamin, give your social media so that people can come and find you. And
Sure. So my social media is, I'm just putting it in the chat right now. That's Benjamin Setor _ on Instagram. And then HTTPS. My Substack is just as follows. Benjamin Setor.substack. Right. Yeah, so that's my Substack. I just click the link and then access it, and then that's good. I'm on LinkedIn. You can just send me a message on LinkedIn. If you
Yeah.
find my Substack, you can always get access to me. So reach
yeah,
out.
we like, share, follow each other. That's how it moves up the algorithm and the stories get out.
Exactly.
All right, everyone. Have a great rest of your Saturday. Benjamin, thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure talking to everyone.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.